Welcome to today's video where I'm going to be creating two looks with the new Glaminatrix Cosmetics Into the Night eyeshadow palette. In case you haven't heard of Glaminatrix Cosmetics before, they are an Australian-based indie brand and they create some of the most beautiful eyeshadow palette color stories, and this one is definitely no exception. I have videos with some of their previous palettes such as the Nocturnal palette and the Glamorous palette. Now this palette has already launched and it does retail for $52, and there's 7 mattes and 5 shimmer shadows. I am loving this color story. They really have been on a streak of beautiful palettes, and I did receive this palette in PR, so thank you so much to Glaminatrix Cosmetics for sending this over to me. So now let's get right into the two looks, and then at the end of the video I'll give you some of my thoughts. So after swatching the palette and seeing the shade Moonlight next to Chaser, I really want to pair these two together for a look for sure. I'm actually thinking of using On the Rocks to pair this with that. So I'm gonna go in with Moonlight, and I'm going to pop that right into the crease. And I am not wearing any foundation as it is literally 9 p.m. I've been wanting to play with this palette, but just haven't had the time. And that's just going to go right in here. I feel like there's something on my brush left over because it's kind of darkening on the edges. I know sometimes some shadows do that, especially like more neon, drier kind of mattes. And I'm taking Chaser on the outer corner. And I'm kind of putting it a little bit on an angle. And it's pretty much blending itself. So now I'm just going to wipe off the brush. And I'm going to go in and just feather the edges with a semi-clean brush. Next I'm taking an actually clean, fluffy blending brush with some setting powder on it just to further blend this out. I don't want any more extension of this color, but clearly it's very pigmented and a little goes a long way. I'm just going to go in back in with this brush again just to spread it out. Maybe just go in with the tiniest bit here. Putting on some Fair & Pixie Epoxy as always, and I'm just gonna tap that, making sure there's a very, very thin layer. You definitely don't want to use too much. I'm taking Top Shelf and I'm gonna pop that onto this outer portion, and I'm kind of layering it over Chaser essentially, and I'm putting it on an angle. And then I'm going to wipe that brush off and go in with On the Rocks right above that. I'm definitely feeling a little bit of fallout on my face. Just a little bit more. I've been loving seeing these kinds of shades like On the Rocks. I feel like it definitely is a little bit similar to what I've been seeing. Seems to be a trend. I feel like last year's trend was like purple multichromes. And this year's trend is more like grungy green, red, orange multichromes. And I'm totally here for it. I cannot get enough of them. Like, honestly, I just feel like I've been collecting them like Pokemon. In Chaser underneath my lower lash line. And I'm just connecting it a little bit. I don't want to take it too far in. And here's the first finished look. For the second look, I'm going to do a halo eye, and I'm going in with a Neon Lights and a clean brush. Make sure I don't have anything interfering, and it's just going to go right into the center of my crease. And I'm going to wipe off my brush. It's probably going to have sparkles all over it now. Yup. And just blend that out. For like a neon shadow, that blended out really nicely. I'm going to pack on a little bit more. And I'm taking Nightlife, and it's going to go on the outer corner and my inner corner. Just kind of tapping it on first, and then now I'm going to wipe off the brush and slowly blend it upwards. I don't want this to like extend out too far in. I feel like for my eye shape it starts to look a little strange when there's too much dark shadow going up in here. And then just gonna blend out this outer corner. I'm gonna try not to wing it out too much, but I usually do. It just, my hand kind of slips and it ends up being winged out. So I'm gonna try to do like a round shape. I'm actually gonna go in with just a little bit more Nightlife. There we go. I think that's safe. I'm going to go in with a clean brush just over the edges like I always do. It's pretty nice and blended. And then next, of course, going in with the Fair & Pixie Epoxy. I picked up After Dark on this really small What's Up Beauty R111 brush. And I'm going to pop that on the center. And I wanted to go in with a small brush so I had a little bit more control on like exactly how far in I'm placing it on both edges. Then I'm going to bring it up into the crease a little bit, because it's going to end up there anyway because of my hooded eyes, so might as well just already pop it in there. Next I'm taking Nightlife, just very, very lightly under here and under here. And then of course I'm going to go in with Neon Lights under the center of my lid. That's like a fun little pop. Actually, I'm going to go in with Nightlife a little bit more. And here's the second finished look. So some initial thoughts on this palette. I love this packaging. I know the last palette also was like this, and it just makes it feel so luxe. And then especially when it matches the mood of the inside. After looking at the color story, I actually thought it reminded me of something. And it's the Moonfall palette from Shroud Cosmetics. So let me just show you a quick little side by side. There's definitely like plenty of differences tone-wise, but I definitely feel like there's some similarities. So for example, there is that lighter green, there's that dark blue, even though Nightlife is more purple toned, and then Primordial and Chaser, and then also Soulstone and Top Shelf are somewhat similar, definitely not dupes by any means. And then obviously Showbiz is pretty different from Sentinel. And then there's no really shade to match Artifact. Night Song maybe and Bustling somewhat similar. So I feel like they're like kind of similar vibes, but the Glaminatrix palette does of course have some neon pops of colors and some mid-tone mattes. And totally different shimmers, of course. They have an amazing shimmer formula, super shiny, super sparkly. I think you can see that obviously from the tutorials. I do enjoy their mattes, and the mattes in this palette were no different. If anything, maybe actually they had less kick up than from what I remember. I didn't have any trouble with these two deeper mattes, which sometimes these kinds of tones, specifically the dark blue, can sometimes be not so great. It depends on the brand. Some brands have figured it out and some have not. I love the pops of color in here. I think that they add versatility to this palette. Happy Hour is more of a topper-like shadow. I know it looks pretty pigmented, but when I blend it out, you can see it's just kind of like a sheen. After Dark is such a beautiful metallic shadow. It looks like liquid silver, and then if I like smooth it out a little, it goes a long way. Top Shelf is also super metallic. I did not use Bustling, but it looks really, really beautiful in swatch, and it has a very, very smooth like texture. I love On the Rocks, of course. I mean, this is probably one of my most favorite kind of eyeshadows. As of recent, as I mentioned, there's been a lot of brands coming out with these types of green reddish reflecting multi-chromes. This one is definitely more on the subtle side, so the shift is not as obvious, but I think actually that makes it maybe a little bit more wearable for a lot of people, and it is so stunning. It is nice and smooth. I do want to do more looks at the palette, probably a reel, so make sure you're following me on Instagram. Or if you are US based, the shipping is about $20, so I would wait until there's enough products that have come out from Glaminatrix Cosmetics to make the shipping worth it. I would probably not say spend $20 to buy one eyeshadow palette, because it is a $52 palette, which I feel like is a fair price for this palette, for the kind of shimmers and the quality that you're getting and the packaging and everything all together. So let me know in the comments below if you pick this palette up, and once you get it, or if you already got it, what you think of it. I would love to hear your thoughts. And that's everything for this video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you next time.